I froze, literally froze, like someone had just slammed a brick wall in front of me. There they were, my own daughter Madison, and that smug son-in-law of mine, Ryan, lounging on the terrace of my Aspen villa, as if they were the king and queen of some private kingdom. Matching white robes, steaming mugs of coffee in hand, their smug little morning scene playing out on the property I had built with my own blood and sweat. "Dad," Maddie called out, her tone flat, cold, like she was talking to a stranger who'd wandered too close. "You can't stay here. Ryan and I are having a romantic weekend." I blinked, thinking I must have misheard, that maybe the thin mountain air was messing with me. "This is my house," I said slowly, each word tasting like disbelief. She set her mug down so hard it rattled the table. "Not for long. We were here first, and we're not leaving. You're just in the way." Her words hit me like a gut punch, sharp, humiliating, final. In the way? This place wasn't just real estate. It was the culmination of 3 decades of contracts signed, deadlines met, and sleepless nights. Susan, my late wife, had chosen every tile, every fixture with her own hands. We had dreamed of growing old here together, and now my only child was telling me to get off my own land, like I was some freeloading squatter. I shot Ryan a look, hoping for something, but he couldn't even meet my eyes. He fiddled with his robe tie like a guilty schoolboy, his silence louder than any insult. "I drove 2 hours to get here," I said, stepping forward, my voice tight. "Then turn around," Maddie snapped, not missing a beat. "And next time, call first." The mountain air suddenly felt razor-sharp in my lungs. My own daughter, my flesh and blood, was dead serious. At 62 years old, I was being told to leave my home. "Fine," I managed, though it tasted like I'd swallowed a mouthful of ash. I grabbed my bag, walked back to my car, and started the engine. Behind me, Maddie and Ryan had already turned their backs, chattering about dinner plans like I'd never even been there. I kept my eyes on the road, but my mind was roaring. If they thought I'd let this go, they had no idea who they were dealing with. If this story touched your heart, press 1 inch the comments. If you think it could have been handled differently, press 2. And I'd love to know, where in the world are you listening from? The drive from Aspen to Denver felt like an endless descent into fire. Every hairpin curve carved the humiliation deeper, like the mountain itself was twisting the knife. Snow still clung stubbornly to the shaded slopes, a mocking reminder that some things don't melt easily. My hands were welded to the steering wheel, knuckles pale, tendons straining. For 3 years, ever since Susan died, I'd bent until I damn near broke for Maddie. Told myself it was grief, that she just needed time to steady herself without her mother. I said yes to everything: her student loans, her overblown wedding, the down payment on that absurd Denver condo. When Ryan's SUV gave out, I didn't blink before writing a check for a brand new one. 5-figure withdrawals? Barely a conversation. I thought I was helping. I thought I was keeping family together. Back in my business days, people called me a bulldog negotiator. Harper Construction didn't become one of Colorado's top firms because I rolled over for anyone. But with my daughter, I turned to putty. And I justified it with one word: love. The Aspen Villa had always been sacred ground. I'd bought it 20 years ago at the very peak of my career. A handcrafted timber frame beauty on 3 acres, its deck framing the maroon bells like a painting. Susan and I had filled it with Christmas fires, late summer sunsets, and quiet mornings with coffee in hand. It was the place I swore I'd scatter her ashes when my own time came. Ryan's parents, Edward and Linda Caldwell, were nothing but a footnote in my life. We'd barely mumbled pleasantries at the wedding. I knew they were strapped for cash. Maddie had let that slip. But whatever financial hole they were in, my villa wasn't their lifeline. And yet Maddie, my own flesh and blood, stood on that terrace today and declared that my home would belong to them. No discussion, no courtesy, just a cold edict, delivered like she was signing off on a corporate eviction. It wasn't even just about the villa. It was the way she looked at me, icy, calculating, as if I were a liability to be removed from the balance sheet. The same girl who once curled up on my lap for bedtime stories couldn't even stand my shadow in her line of sight. Susan had been the referee in our family, the only one who could call Maddie out without turning the air into gunpowder. She'd have shut down a stunt like this before it even started. But Susan was gone, and Maddie had figured out that her father without his wife was pliable. Only now, As the miles unspooled beneath my tires, something hardened. I thought of every contract I'd fought to the letter, every hostile takeover I'd sent packing, every inch of ground I'd refused to surrender. I knew exactly how to handle people who thought they could edge me out. Maddie thought she knew her father. She was about to find out just how wrong she was. 3 days of silence from Maddie. Not a word. I told myself maybe she'd come to her senses. Maybe the next call would be an apology. Maybe we could talk without tearing each other apart. On the fourth evening, my phone rang. Her name lit up like a warning. I answered. "Hey, Maddie." Her tone was clipped, almost corporate. "Listen carefully, Dad. Ryan and I have decided the Aspen Villa is going to his parents. From now on, it's their home. You're not to come up there anymore." I set my coffee mug down with slow, deliberate control. "I'm sorry. What did you just say?" "Edward and Linda need a proper place to live. You hardly use the villa, and they've been through a lot. It just makes sense." I leaned forward in my chair, the leather creaking under my weight. "Makes sense to who? You can't just give away my property." "Actually, I can. And I am." Her voice turned sharp, venom slipping through. "You're being ridiculously selfish. After everything we've done for you since Mom died." I laughed short, humorless, biting. "Everything you've done for me? I paid for your wedding, your car, your college loans, the condo you're living in, all of it." "That's what fathers do," she shot back. "Besides, you're old and alone now. What do you need with such a big villa?" Her words landed like a blade between my ribs. Old. Alone. She knew exactly where to cut. "Those are Ryan's parents, Maddie. They're strangers to me. They're family now," she said flatly. "And unlike you, they'll appreciate what they're getting." I tightened my grip on the phone. "Number." A pause, icy and dangerous. "What did you just say?" "I said no. I'm not handing over my villa." "You can't say no to me," she snapped. "They're coming to look at it this weekend. They've already made travel plans." "I don't care what they've planned. It's not happening." Her composure cracked. "You are unbelievably selfish. Mom would be ashamed of you." That tore through every boundary. My voice dropped to steel. "Your mother would be horrified at what you're doing right now." Her breath caught sharp, furious. "How dare you?" I hung up. The phone rang again almost instantly. I let it ring until it died in the silence. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in my study, the conversation replaying like a bad recording. For 3 years I'd been the one to call, to apologize, to smooth things over. Tonight I saw the truth. This wasn't grief anymore, this was greed. By sunrise, I had clarity. She'd told me the timeline Saturday morning the Caldwells would arrive. That gave me 4 days to make sure they never forgot what would happen if they tried to take what was mine. In business, the first one to reveal their timeline usually lost the negotiation. Maddie had just given me hers. I called my attorney David Kim. His voice didn't waver when I told him my own daughter was trying to shove me out of my property. He laid out the plan, locked down ownership documents, document every call, prepare a legal counterstrike. "And if you've got any kind of deterrent ready for this weekend," he added, "make it count. Once they're in, getting them out is hell." "Oh." I told him I'd handle that part. By mid-afternoon, I was standing on the porch of Ethan Brooks, my Aspen neighbor, tech wizard, and the man I'd helped bail out when his basement flooded last winter. Ethan opened the door in faded jeans and a Rockies t-shirt, pushing his glasses up. "Dan, you okay?" "Not exactly," I said, stepping inside. "I need your help with a creative home automation project." His eyebrows rose. "Creative how?" I leaned in, laying out the plan: motion sensors, flashing lights, automated water sprays, voice announcements, maybe even a few effects that would make the place feel haunted. Ethan's grin spread slow and wicked. "You want to scare the hell out of someone, don't you?" "Something like that." He grabbed a notepad without hesitation. "Then let's make it unforgettable." We sat at Ethan's kitchen table for over an hour, spreading scrap paper across the wood grain like battle maps. He knew the villa well. He'd been there a couple of years back to help me install a basic security camera system, and he remembered every corner worth exploiting. "First," he said, tapping the sketch at the entryway, "we put a motion sensor here. As soon as it triggers, every light snaps on, and the speakers blast. You are trespassing. Leave immediately." "Oh." "Make it loud enough to rattle teeth," I said. "Trust me," he smirked. "We'll run it through every speaker in the house. Nowhere to hide." I told him exactly who these guests were. His eyebrows shot up halfway through. "Your own daughter?" She's not acting like one, I said, my voice flat as stone. Ethan didn't waste time with judgment. He went straight back to logistics. We'll need motion sensors, programmable LEDs, hidden speakers, waterline controls, maybe even a few projectors. Do you want this to feel like a haunted house? Or like a high-tech security system that's lost its mind? I pictured Maddie and the Caldwells walking in with smug entitlement, only to have the villa turn against them. Both, I said. Start official. Make it sound like the law is in the room. Then, make it personal. Make it creep. By the time we finished, it looked less like a home automation plan and more like a psychological warfare operation, lights strobing in dizzying patterns, faucets and sprinklers erupting without warning, shadow projections sliding along the walls just offbeat from real movement, phantom footsteps echoing in empty rooms. All legal, Ethan reminded me, and you'll have full control from your phone. Before heading back to Aspen, I stopped at David Kim's office downtown. I told him everything Maddie's call, her threats, the texts. I slid my phone across the desk, showing him the screenshots. David flipped through them with a slow, deliberate nod. Perfect. Keep feeding me these, and don't respond unless it's strictly factual. The more she talks while thinking you're on the back foot, the more rope she gives herself. He handed me a checklist. Asterisk. Confirm the deed is current and recorded. Asterisk. Make redundant copies of all ownership documents. Asterisk document. Every demand, every insult. Asterisk. Notify him immediately if they show up before Saturday. Dan, he said, leaning back, if they can't walk in, they'll find another angle. You need to be ready for escalation. I smiled without humor. I'm counting on it. By the time I left, Maddie had sent 3 more texts. Dad, we need to finalize details for Saturday. Don't make this difficult. They've booked movers for Sunday. I deleted them without answering. That night, I packed not clothes, but ammunition of a different kind. The documents David wanted. Extra tools Ethan might need. And one thing I hadn't touched in years. A brass compass in a leather case, Susan's gift to me. Inside, she'd had it engraved, always find your way back. I traced the words with my thumb before slipping it into my pocket. At dawn, Ethan's SUV rolled into my driveway, loaded with gear that could pass for a film crew's setup, cases of electronics, coils of cable, a portable server unit. We left for Aspen before sunrise. This time, I wasn't going there to relax. I was going to make damn sure my daughter and her in-laws learned, in no uncertain terms, that crossing me and trying to steal what's mine would be the worst mistake of their lives. We rolled into Aspen just after 10 a.m., the Rockies cutting into the spring sky like they'd been carved fresh overnight. From the outside, the villa was exactly as it had always been. Warm cedar siding, a wraparound deck, snowmelt dripping lazily from the roof. Peaceful. Inviting. The perfect disguise for what was about to become a trap. Ethan stepped out of his SUV and gave a low whistle. Every time I see this place, I think, man, I'd kill for a view like this. Let's make sure the wrong people never get the chance, I said, unlocking the front door. We started with the motion sensors. Ethan moved with the precision of a man who'd been planning this for weeks. Small black discs mounted in entryways, corners, and every main room. Once one of these trips, the chain reaction starts. Lights, audio, then water. I followed close behind, threading cables through the walls to hidden outlets, careful to keep everything invisible to a casual glance. Then came the lighting. Ethan unpacked programmable LED strips that could turn from soft gold to blinding strobe in a split second. He tucked them under shelves, behind furniture, along the tops of door frames. In daylight, you wouldn't know they were there. In darkness, they'd turn the place into a pulsing, disorienting nightmare. For sound, we used palm-sized speakers hidden in bookshelves, vents, even under end tables. We'll start with an official bark. You are trespassing. Leave immediately. Then we bring in the whispers. Footsteps. Maybe a door hinge groan. I couldn't stop a grin. You missed your true calling, Ethan. He smirked. Nah, I just like watching arrogant people lose their nerve. By mid-afternoon, we were on the water system. Ethan installed remote valves under every sink and shower, all routed to a master control hub. One tap, and the entire house could sound like a main line had blown. The final strike was the projector's small, high-def units mounted in ceiling corners and high on the walls. They would cast moving shadows, figures that walked just out of sync with reality, turned their heads, and stopped to watch. We tested the system before sunset. I walked through the front door while Ethan ran the controls. Lights flared. A commanding voice bellowed from nowhere. "Attention! You are not authorized to be here." 10 seconds later, shadows began stretching across the walls, and the kitchen sink erupted in a spray. Flawless. We stepped out onto the deck as the mountains blushed pink in the fading light. Ethan cracked a soda. "You know, you could have just locked the place and called the cops." I looked over the valley. "Locking it keeps them out. This way, they walk in. They choose it. And they never forget it." He nodded. "Fair enough. Backup batteries will keep it running for a week, even if they kill the main power." Before leaving, we mounted one last piece, a polished, professional-looking sign on the front door. "Welcome to the House of the Future. Enter at your own risk." Official enough to disarm suspicion, harmless enough to ignore, just enough to cover us legally. We packed the last of the gear into Ethan's SUV. I took one last look at the villa. From the road it still whispered, "Serene mountain retreat." Inside it was coiled tight, ready to strike. "Saturday," I said. Ethan gave a slow grin. "Saturday. I'll be watching the feeds with you." Driving back to Denver, I felt something I hadn't in months control. Maddie thought she was cornering me. She'd handed me her timeline, her plan, her misplaced confidence. She had no idea she was walking straight into mine. Saturday afternoon, I sat in my Denver study, 3 monitors glowing like command screens in a control room. Each one streamed a live feed from the villa entryway, living room, bedrooms. Ethan had tested the system twice that morning. Everything was primed. At exactly 2:27 p.m., the driveway cam lit up with movement. A silver SUV rolled into frame, right on schedule. Maddie stepped out first, sunglasses high on her head like a crown, her dark hair catching the alpine light. Ryan rounded the driver's side, already popping the trunk. Then came Edward and Linda, hauling suitcases with the self-assured gait of people walking into their vacation property. Linda paused at the door, eyeing the house of the future. "Enter at your own risk" sign. Her mouth curled. "What is this supposed to be?" "Dad's just being weird," Maddie said with a casual wave. "Ignore it." Ryan slid the key I'd given Maddie years ago into the lock. The door swung open without resistance. They stepped inside like they owned the place. I let them. All afternoon, I watched them unpack, claim bedrooms, and settle in. The sun set over the mountains, casting the deck in gold. Inside, they laughed, toasted, made themselves at home. At 10 p.m. sharp, I tapped execute. The villa exploded into chaos. Every light flared in strobing bursts, red, white, blue, slashing shadows into jagged, unnatural shapes. A cold, synthetic voice cut through the air. "Unauthorized intrusion detected. Leave immediately." From the bedroom feed, Maddie shot upright, panic flashing across her face. Ryan staggered after her. In the guest room, Linda screamed as water blasted from the bathroom faucets, erupting in violent sprays like a plumbing system possessed. Then the projectors came alive, dark silhouettes pacing walls, stopping in doorways, turning their heads as if to watch. "This place is haunted," Linda shrieked, clinging to Edward. "Find the breaker," Ryan barked, charging to the utility closet. The camera caught the moment he flipped the main switch, and nothing happened. "Warning." The voice boomed again, colder this time. "Security system active. Authorities have been notified." Every step they took triggered more mayhem, footsteps pounding in empty hallways, whispers sliding through the vents, a door slamming somewhere upstairs. The house chased them from room to room, relentless. By 4 a.m., they had collapsed in the living room, huddled together, jumpy at every flicker of light. First light crept through the blinds, and the front door lock clicked open. They didn't even speak. Suitcases half-zipped, coats thrown over pajamas, they bolted. I watched through the entry cam as they spilled into the SUV. Maddie's face was pale and tight, her anger barely containing the fear. The engine roared, gravel sprayed, and then silence. I leaned back in my chair, the feeds still open in front of me. They wouldn't be back, not like this. And if they ever tried again, well, I had more than one play left in my book. The phone rang at 7:30 a.m., just as I was pouring coffee. "Maddie," I answered, calm as the steam curled from the mug. "Good morning, sweetheart. How was your night at the villa?" Her reply was a raw, unfiltered scream. "What did you do? The house went insane. Lights, water, voices Linda's traumatized. Edward's blood pressure shot through the roof. We called the cops." "That sounds awful," I said lightly, stirring my coffee. "What did they say?" "They said nothing was wrong, just some technical glitch." "Don't play dumb, Dad. I know it was you." "How could I possibly do anything from 200 miles away?" I asked, letting a chuckle slip. "You know I can barely work the television remote." "You think you're clever?" she spat. "But this isn't over. We'll get the villa, one way or another." I didn't respond. Let her believe she still had a card to play. 2 nights later, my doorbell rang at 8 p.m. Maddie and Ryan stood there, faces stormy. Ryan didn't wait for an invite. He shouldered past me into the foyer. "This game ends now," he said. "Either you hand over the villa, or you never see your daughter again." "That's supposed to be a threat or a promise?" I asked. "We'll sue," Maddie snapped. "Harassment. Emotional distress. Anything that sticks." I shrugged. "You'd need proof. The police already called it a malfunction." "You know exactly what you did," she shot back. "Oh, I do," I said. "And now you're going to know too. Sit down." They didn't sit, but they listened. I no longer own the villa. That hit like a brick. "What?" Ryan's voice was sharp. "I transferred it Monday morning to the Rocky Mountain Second Chance Foundation. They provide housing for homeless families. I still have lifetime usage rights, but it's legally theirs now." Maddie's eyes widened, disbelief flooding her face. "You gave it away?" "Yes," I said. "To people who actually need it. You can't steal what I don't own." "That's pure spite," Ryan snapped. "No," I corrected, my voice cutting through the room. "That's protection. Protection from people who confuse family with entitlement." Maddie's voice cracked, but the edge stayed. "Do you have any idea what you've done? We had plans." "Plans you never asked my permission for," I said flatly. Ryan's jaw clenched. "So you win. Is that it?" "No," I said. "The families who live there win. I just stopped a theft." Maddie's hands balled into fists. "We'll find another way. You'll regret this." "I doubt it," I said, standing. "This conversation's over." Her eyes shone, hard and wet. "When I have kids, they'll never know you." "Oh." The words landed like a punch, but I kept my face still. "That's your choice, just like this was mine." Ryan yanked the door open, muttering as they stormed out. When the door clicked shut, the silence that followed felt clean. Final. The war was over. 3 days later, I drove back to Aspen. Spring light spilled over the Rockies, sharp and clean, the kind of morning that almost makes you believe nothing ugly could ever happen here. The villa stood quiet, the cedars siding warm in the sun, the deck catching flecks of melting snow. It looked exactly as it should, untouched, unclaimed by anyone but me. I unlocked the door without hesitation. No tightness in my chest, no instinct to listen for voices that didn't belong. It wasn't the deed that made it mine now. It was the fact that I'd reclaimed something more important, my boundaries. I went to work dismantling the fortress Ethan and I had built. Projectors first, then hidden speakers, motion sensors, the battery backups. Each piece went into boxes for Ethan. The system had done its job. It didn't need to stand guard anymore. By late morning, the house was stripped back to itself again, cedar beams catching the light, stone fireplace steady and still, glass walls framing a horizon that seemed endless. I brewed coffee and carried it out to the deck where Susan and I had once spent countless mornings. For the first time in years, I just sat. No phone, no constant hum of dread in my gut. Just wind through the pines, sunlight on the lake far below, and the kind of silence that feels earned. I thought about the man I became after Susan died, a man who mistook surrender for love, who kept peace at the expense of his own dignity. That man let people chip away at him until even his own daughter thought she could take what wasn't hers. Not anymore. This wasn't just about keeping a villa from Maddie and her in-laws. It was about proving to them and to myself that there are lines you don't cross. That family doesn't mean unlimited access to someone else's work, someone else's life. Some relationships die when you draw a real boundary. Maybe mine with Maddie will. But I finally understand love without respect isn't love at all. The breeze shifted, carrying pine and thawing snow, the air cool against my face. I raised my coffee toward the mountains, as if to clink cups with the ghost beside me. Susan would have smiled at this, not at the revenge, but at the man I'd found my way back to. The man who remembered he was worth protecting.